It started with a bell, a small metallic jingle as the heavy glass doors swung open. Elijah Walker stepped inside the old-fashioned store, the kind with creaky wooden floors, dusty shelves, and the faint smell of leather and polish lingering in the air. Outside, the Georgia sun beat down hard, casting long shadows across the sidewalk. Inside, though, the air was cooler. Still, unwelcoming. Elijah hadn't even taken 3 steps when he heard it. "Don't touch anything." The voice came from behind the counter, sharp, cold, and soaked in suspicion. Elijah paused mid-step. His eyes slowly lifted to meet the source. An older white man in a plaid shirt, maybe mid-60s, with a grizzled beard and a gaze like daggers. He didn't bother to smile. Didn't offer a hello. Just stared at Elijah like he'd stepped off the set of a crime scene. Elijah blinked. "I'm just looking," he said, keeping his tone even. Polite. He'd learned to do that since he was a kid, since the first time he was followed around a grocery store for daring to exist. "You look with your eyes, not your hands," the man snapped. It was a watch shop. Vintage. Rare. High-end. Elijah had driven 2 hours to get there after reading online that they carried an original 1965 Omega Seamaster, his late grandfather's dream watch. Elijah had saved for months. This was supposed to be a good day. But something about the way the man's eyes scanned him, from his brown skin to his clean sneakers to the modest polo shirt he wore, made Elijah feel like he was back in the 60s. Like he was trespassing in a time machine. There were no other customers. Just the man, the store, and Elijah. He forced a smile. "I called earlier about the Seamaster. You said you had one." The old man snorted. "You called? You sure about that?" "Yes, sir." "You said it was behind the counter, in a red case." The man hesitated. Squinted. "Didn't say anything to me. I spoke to someone named Larry," Elijah said. "Said he'd hold it until today." Now the man's expression changed. Only slightly, but enough. A flicker of something behind his eyes. Recognition. Discomfort. Maybe even guilt. But then it vanished. Replaced with that same icy wall. "We don't have it anymore," he said, turning his back. Elijah's brow furrowed. "That can't be right." Larry said, "Larry doesn't work here anymore." Elijah felt his stomach twist. "Yesterday? He was working yesterday. He doesn't work here today," the man growled without turning around. "Now I'm going to need you to leave. We don't have anything for you." There it was. No more pretending. No more passive aggressiveness. Just pure, open dismissal. Like Elijah wasn't a customer. Like he didn't belong. Elijah swallowed hard. He could feel his pulse in his ears. He wasn't going to cause a scene. That's what people expected. That's what the man wanted. So he kept calm. "Sir," he said quietly, "I came all this way. I called ahead. I have the money right here. I'm not looking for trouble. I just want the watch." Finally, the man turned around. Rested both elbows on the counter. Leaned in close. "You people always think you're owed something," he said. There it was. Just like that. No sugarcoating. No coded language. Just hate. A silence fell over the room. Elijah felt it like a weight pressing down on his chest. His jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Instead, he slowly reached into his back pocket and pulled out his phone. Not to record, not yet, but to show the email confirmation. Proof. But the second the phone came out, the man snapped. "Don't pull that out in my store." Elijah froze. "It's just the email." "I said get out," the man barked, slamming his fist on the counter. The sound echoed. At that moment, a small chime rang again. The door opened. Another customer. A white man in a suit. Same age as Elijah, maybe younger. He smiled politely at the owner and nodded. "Hey, Mr. Garrison. You still got that Seamaster." And just like that, everything changed. Mr. Garrison's face lit up. "For you?" "Of course. Let me grab it." Elijah stood frozen as Mr. Garrison reached under the counter and, without even hiding it, pulled out a small red case. The one Elijah had driven hours to buy. The one he'd been told wasn't there. He held it up proudly. "Mint condition," he said to the new customer. "Original box, no scratches. Just came in yesterday." Elijah stared. The man lied. Right to his face. Mr. Garrison glanced at Elijah like he was something stuck to his boot. I told you to leave. But Elijah didn't move. His eyes were fixed on that red box. His fists clenched at his sides. Not in anger, but in disbelief, shock. And something else was growing inside him now. Something cold. Quiet. Question. How far would a man go just to be treated like a human being? And what would happen when the world finally pushed him too far? Elijah didn't say a word. He couldn't. The shock had frozen his tongue. There it was, right in front of him, the watch he had come all that way for, sitting in the hands of a stranger. A man who hadn't even said 2 words before being welcomed like royalty. The contrast was like a punch to the chest. Mr. Garrison didn't even glance at Elijah anymore. As far as he was concerned, Elijah had already disappeared. Just a shadow near the door. But Elijah hadn't moved. The man in the suit turned toward Elijah, confused. Hey, you good, man? Elijah forced a smile. Yeah, he said quietly. I'm good. But he wasn't. He was tired. Tired of this game. Tired of pretending not to notice the shift in tone. The way eyes changed when they saw his skin. The polite voices that turned sharp. The suspicion. The fake smiles. The rules that only seemed to apply to him. He nodded once at the guy, then looked Mr. Garrison in the eye. You lied to me. Garrison's face went blank. You need to leave. I called. I showed up. I was respectful. And you lied. Right to my face. The man behind the counter leaned forward, voice low and venomous. You should have just walked away. That's your problem. Always pushing where you don't belong. That word again. Belong. Elijah took a breath and stepped forward. Not aggressively, not fast, just calm and direct. And that's when it happened. Mr. Garrison's hand darted under the counter. The new customer stepped back. Yo, what the hell are you doing? Elijah froze. What did you just grab? Garrison didn't answer. But there was a click. A slow, deliberate sound that sent chills down Elijah's spine. It wasn't a gun. At least, he hoped not. But the message was clear. Leave or else. The man in the suit raised his hands. This ain't necessary, man. He didn't do anything. Garrison ignored him. You think I haven't dealt with your kind before? Always trying to make trouble. Always playing the victim. That word again. You're kind. Elijah's voice dropped into something colder now. Quieter. Dangerous. I don't want trouble. I wanted to watch. You got a problem with how I run my store? Elijah smiled, but it wasn't friendly. You have a problem with the color of my skin. There it was. The truth, naked and ugly between them. Garrison's nostrils flared. Get out. Now. Elijah turned slowly and walked to the door. But before he left, he looked over his shoulder one last time. You think this is over, he said. But it's not. Garrison smirked. You gonna cry about it online? Leave a review? Go ahead. Nobody cares. But Elijah wasn't thinking about reviews. He wasn't thinking about yelling, or lawsuits, or revenge. He was thinking about something deeper. Something righteous. Because this wasn't just about him. It never was. It was about every black man who'd been followed through a store. Every kid who'd been accused of stealing. Every quiet, peaceful moment ruined by suspicion. By fear. By hate. So no, this wasn't over. And Elijah was going to make damn sure that Mr. Garrison would regret ever opening his mouth. Meanwhile, back in his car, Elijah sat in silence. The steering wheel trembled in his hands. He stared at his reflection in the rearview mirror for a long time. Then he picked up his phone and dialed. Hey, he said when the call connected. It's me. I need a favor. A voice on the other end answered. Familiar. Strong. Trusted. What kind of favor? Elijah's eyes narrowed. The kind that makes people like him answer for what they do. 3 days later, the video dropped. No music. No fancy edits. Just a calm voice and cold facts. It started with Elijah's face, sitting in his car, holding up the email confirmation with a timestamp and store address. Then a simple, measured voiceover. I drove 2 hours to pick up a watch I'd already spoken to a store employee about. When I arrived, the owner told me it didn't exist. A few minutes later, a white customer walked in and asked for the same watch and got it right in front of me. Then came the recording. No video, just crisp audio. Elijah had hit record on his phone the moment Mr. Garrison raised his voice. Everything was there. Don't touch anything. You people always think you're owed something. You should have walked away. It wasn't loud or aggressive. That's what made it worse. It was calm, comfortable. Like this wasn't the first time Garrison had spoken like that, and it probably wouldn't be the last. The video ended with a simple caption. Do better, America. Elijah didn't expect much. He wasn't chasing fame, just justice. But by the next morning, it had over 89,000 views. And by that afternoon, #GarrisonWatchCo was trending on social media platforms he didn't even use. Meanwhile, in that same dusty little shop, Mr. Garrison was panicking. His phone wouldn't stop ringing, not with orders, but with voicemails filled with disgust. You racist piece of trash. Hope you lose everything. Disgusting how you treated that man. The local paper had already called. So had a national morning show. Then a regional news affiliate parked a van across the street. And just like that, Mr. Garrison, who once prided himself on keeping his shop quiet, was now the loudest name on the internet. When a young black journalist named Talia Green knocked on his window with a camera crew behind her, Garrison nearly tripped over himself trying to lock the door. We just want a statement, she called. A chance to respond. To explain your side. But Garrison didn't want to explain. He wanted it all to go away. And behind the locked door, he stared at his once prized red case, the same one Elijah had asked for. It now felt like a curse sitting behind the glass. Elijah watched it all unfold quietly. He didn't say much online. He didn't jump on camera again. He let the story speak for itself. But he wasn't done yet. He met Talia Green at a nearby diner the next evening. She was sharp, no nonsense, and had a look in her eyes like she'd seen 1,000 stories like his and was tired of writing them. You handled it with class, she said. Most people would have lost their cool. Elijah smiled faintly. I wanted to. Believe me. She sipped her coffee. So what's next? He slid a small flash drive across the table. What's this? She asked. Footage, he said. From 2 years ago. Same shop. Different guy. Same exact treatment. She frowned. You've been keeping receipts? I've been collecting patterns, he said quietly. Garrison didn't just make a mistake. He's made a career out of treating black folks like garbage. I'm not the first. I doubt I'll be the last. Talia leaned back, impressed. You want justice or revenge? Elijah didn't hesitate. Both. The next article dropped the following morning. Patterns of Prejudice. The truth behind Garrison Watch Company. It wasn't just Elijah's story anymore. 2 more men had come forward. A former employee, a delivery driver. Both had chilling stories. Both had kept quiet until now. The fallout was swift. Sponsors pulled out. A vintage watch magazine issued a formal statement condemning the store. Even some of Garrison's longtime customers began to post angry reviews. Elijah stayed off camera. Let others speak. But behind the scenes, he was moving with quiet precision. Because the fight wasn't over. Garrison hadn't apologized. He hadn't acknowledged any wrongdoing. And that silence, that was the part that kept Elijah up at night. Because some people only change when the price of staying the same becomes too high. And Elijah was ready to raise that price. By the end of the week, Elijah's story was everywhere. But it wasn't just his anymore. The stories were pouring in like rain. Black customers, Hispanic delivery drivers, even a young white woman who said she once overheard Mr. Garrison call a black father and his son a pair of animals after they left the store. Each account was like a match tossed into dry brush. And now the whole forest was burning. Garrison tried to stay quiet. He shut down the store temporarily, posted a bland message about unwarranted attacks, and claimed he was being targeted for political reasons. Nobody bought it. Then came the protests. Not huge, not violent, just steady, peaceful, purposeful. Every day at 10 a.m., a small group would stand across the street holding signs. Racism doesn't belong in business. We're not going anywhere. Respect costs nothing. By day 3, the local news was live streaming from the sidewalk. By day 5, Elijah finally showed up. Not to speak, not to shout, just to stand. He took his place at the edge of a line, hoodie pulled low, hands in his pockets. A quiet symbol of what this was really about. Not vengeance. Visibility. That's when something unexpected happened. An older man in a worn tan coat approached the line slowly. He looked nervous, out of place, eyes darting, shoulders tense. He stopped in front of Elijah. "You're the one," he said. Elijah studied him. "Excuse me, you're the one from the video, from the shop." Elijah nodded, cautious. "Yeah." The man took a shaky breath. I used to work for him. Garrison. Years ago. I quit after 6 months. Couldn't stand what I saw." Elijah's eyes narrowed. "You have a story to tell?" "I have more than that," the man whispered. "I have proof." An hour later, they sat in a coffee shop a block away. The man's name was Richard Lowe, and he wasn't just a former employee. He was the one who had trained half the staff during Garrison's expansion phase 5 years ago. "He had rules," Richard said. "Not on paper, but everyone knew them. Don't let anyone in with baggy clothes. Don't buzz the door if it's more than 2 black men at once. Don't leave high-value items out when they come in. Anyone who didn't look like him." Elijah clenched his jaw. "I complained once," Richard continued. "Told him it wasn't right. You know what he said?" Elijah shook his head. "He looked me right in the eye and said, 'People like that don't buy watches. They steal them.' Then he told me if I didn't like it, I could leave. So you did." 2 weeks later, Richard nodded. "But I kept some of the old training documents. Notes, emails, stuff he never wanted the public to see.